welcome back to my FODMAP kitchen. Today we're going to be talking about substitutions and some tips on working with gluten-free flour. A big part of learning how to eat on the low FODMAP diet is figuring out how to substitute foods that you can't have for foods that you can. We have already talked about this a little bit when we did infusing oils in our first episode. I'll have a link somewhere around here, probably in this corner. Check it out. So today, we're just going to be going over some of the more common cooking ingredients that can be difficult to eliminate, and what to substitute in their place. We're going to start off with the most obvious ingredient, replacing regular milk with lactose-free milk. However, there are a lot of other cooking ingredients that contain milk that you wouldn't normally think of, like sour cream and heavy whipping cream and sweetened condensed milk and evaporated milk. All of these cooking ingredients that contain milk that there's not a lactose-free version of. So we're going to be going over how to home make those ingredients. For buttermilk, all you'll need is 1 cup of lactose-free milk and 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. What you'll do is you'll take the lemon juice and you'll put it and stir it into the milk and let it stand for about 5 to 10 minutes. And you'll get buttermilk. Then to make sour cream, you'll just take 3/4 of the buttermilk that we just made and add 1/3 cup, which is about 5 tablespoons of butter. For heavy whipping cream, you'll take 3/4 cup of regular lactose-free milk and also add 1/3 cup, which is 5 tablespoons of melted butter. However, you won't be able to use this as an actual whipping cream. It's simply for substitutions. Substitute for evaporated milk. Instead, use coconut milk cup for cup. Now for substituting sweetened condensed milk. Instead, use 11 ounces of coconut milk, 1 cup of powdered sugar, a pinch of salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. And to make this, all you'll do is you'll take your coconut milk and bring it to a low boil on the stove for about 5 minutes. Then once it's lightly boiling, you'll turn it down to a simmer and add the other ingredients until they're fully incorporated. It should about half in volume, and when it's thick, that's how you'll know it's done. Moving on to another difficult substance to eliminate is honey, which is a shame because honey is really good. But in place of honey, when you're cooking, you will instead use maple syrup. Now this isn't your put on your pancakes log cabin syrup like that has 10 ingredients. You'll want actual, real, legit maple syrup. I got mine from Canada, so it's obviously the best maple syrup you'll find. But anyways, getting off track. You'll just want to make sure that your maple syrup is 100% maple syrup with no other ingredients. While we're on the topic of syrup, if you don't want to buy 100% pure maple syrup because it is a little bit expensive and you want just regular pancake syrup, you'll just make sure that it has a label on it that says no high fructose corn syrup, or that if you read the ingredients on the back, which is your new best friend thanks to this diet, it will not contain high fructose corn syrup. To substitute for tomato paste, you will instead use tomato sauce and either cornstarch or white rice flour. And however much tomato sauce you use in place of tomato paste, you'll just add cornstarch or rice flour until it becomes the thickness that you want. Shout out to my fellow college students. If you're a fan of cheap ramen, but you're sad that you now can't eat it, instead look in your gluten-free aisles for some rice noodle ramen. It cooks just the same and it's surprisingly delicious, although nothing beats the nostalgia of 15-cent ramen. For mayonnaise, I would recommend getting olive oil-based mayonnaise as it is generally healthier and a little bit safer on this diet. To substitute for breadcrumbs, instead use gluten-free breadcrumbs. These you can usually find in the gluten-free section of your local superstore, but if they don't carry them, you can just make your own using gluten-free bread and a toaster. You'll toast your bread, and then once it's toasted all the way through, then just crumb it. This one isn't really a substitution, but it is pertinent for today. When buying cereal, it can sometimes be difficult to find cereals that don't contain wheat or gluten. So you'll want to buy either a brand that says gluten-free or just read the ingredients list. A lot of cereals these days are coming out being made with either corn flour or rice flour. So just check your ingredients and see which flour it's made from. When it comes to our tortillas, all you'll need is to make sure that they are corn tortillas instead of flour tortillas. Finally, and by far the hardest substitution, is bread. Gluten-free bread is usually what we have to turn to, but I have found my new favorite, potato bread. When you're buying potato bread, you'll just want to make sure that it's made with potato flour first and wheat flour is lower down on the list instead of wheat flour being the first ingredient. As a note, when cooking with corn syrup, make sure that when you read the ingredients list, there's no high fructose corn syrup in it. When it comes to working with gluten-free flour, there are a lot of options. These are just a few of the gluten-free flours that I've owned. We've got our ever-favorite gluten-free 1-to-1 flour. We've got all-purpose baking gluten-free flour. We have white rice flour and quinoa flour and coconut flour and almond flour. And it's a lot to take in, I know, but each one serves a different purpose. And I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of each flour and what it's for. Almond flour, which is used in making pastries like macaroons. Coconut flour, which is also often used in baking like sugar cookies. Then we've got the tricky ones, the white rice flour and the quinoa flour. These are made with different components. The white rice flour is considered a light flour or a starch, like potato flour or cornstarch. Quinoa flour is considered a medium flour. And then you've got other flours which are considered heavy flours. And it gets really complicated, but to make a gluten-free flour blend, you want a blend of each of the different flours, and you'll level them to your own liking. If you want to learn more about making your own gluten-free flour blend, I've got a link down below to an article that I found really helpful. Then we've got our ready-made gluten-free flour blends, our all-purpose gluten-free flour, which is really good for just anything or for making bread. The one thing about this flour is that it doesn't contain any xanthan gum or guar gum, which is what helps it to rise. And so you'll have to buy some separately and add it in according to what the recipe calls for. And finally, our ever-favorite gluten-free 1-to-1 flour. This makes cooking so much easier. You can use it just like any regular flour. When it comes to making bread though, it does get a little bit tricky. And now we get to the trickiest part of the diet, is making bread. Things with dough like bread or pizza or cinnamon rolls. It gets a little bit tricky, and we'll have a whole future episode on making dough, but the basics. One thing that you need to remember about making bread is when it comes to regular flour, it has gluten. And what gluten is it's a binding agent that develops as the flour chemically combines with the other ingredients. So when you're kneading dough, the more elastic it gets, the more you develop the gluten in it, which is the substance that if you're on this diet you can't have because of the levels of carbs in it, that type of sugar that we talked about in episode 1. So instead you have to use flours that don't have that gluten in it, but that means that it doesn't have that binding agent, which is where the flour blends come in. This is why you want a blend of heavier flours, which will give it substance, and the starch flours like white rice flour or cornstarch that will help bind it. And then of course you'll want something else in that flour blend like xanthan gum or guar gum, which helps it to rise. So you need all of these components in your flour blend so you can get the same effect as regular flour. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make some substitutions and learn about gluten-free flours today. On that note, stay tuned for the next episode where we're going to go into how to make bread. Hey guys, we found the clicker. Get ready for all of the bloopers of us trying to figure out how the clicker works. There you go, right there. Yeah, that's not back here, here.
It's not working.
Give it to me. Give me the clicker. Test.
What?
Test.
What? There you go.
Look weird if I just have the clicker on my hand. Welcome back to Woo! As it flies across the kitchen. There we go.
There you go.
Oh, it worked over here.
Testing.
Testing. This is taking far too long.
Oh,
No.
look. It started recording.
It started?
Yeah.
Oh, it actually worked.
Hallelujah.
Oh, it's working. Don't stop it.
Stop.
Stop in the name of love.
It still works. Alright, ready?
Yep.
Oh, it's been recording.
It has a blooper reel of us just trying to figure out how the clicker works.
Awesome.
When it comes to tortillas, to substitute, all you'll need is to buy corn tortillas instead of flours. Flours instead of flour tortillas. Let me try that again. You're so distracting, you know that?
Oh, sorry.